dark. Red and blue views, truth in the middle. No script, just thought raw and a little civil. Every question's got layers, so we peel back facts. From the real to the surreal, we don't hold back. Voices collide where ideas ignite. You tuned in, now step into the fight. This is more than talk, this is thought that counts. Welcome to the feed where the signal mounts.
Okay, so let's dive in. You've given us a really interesting source here.
Yeah, it's a transcript from a YouTube panel, OTW Live channel.
When the smoke clears, who's still standing? #OpenPanel. And wow, the description right at the start. It's intense.
It really is. They call it a cosmic event, uncut flame.
A broadcast burn through the solar glare. I mean, it sounds huge.
Definitely framing it as more than just talk. It's a war, they say, about taking the throne.
Not local, not known beyond every zone. It's ambitious language.
And that central question, right in the title. When the smoke clears, who's still standing?
So it sets a very specific tone, doesn't it? This isn't just, a friendly chat.
Not at all. It's establishing this high-stakes, almost theatrical arena for the discussion.
Yeah.
Competition, significance.
Yeah, exactly. Feels less like a panel, more like, you said it, a digital jungle sometimes.
Right. So our mission, I guess, with this deep dive is to try and navigate that.
Yeah, unpack the key stuff, the dynamics, the arguments.
And some of those really memorable, maybe even jarring moments from this source you showed.
Pulling out the insights, the conflicts, just based on the words themselves.
But navigating it means, first, understanding the players, right?
Yeah.
The overall tone, like you said, it's confrontational.
Chaotic, definitely performative, too.
Yeah. Jungle, fight, face-off. Those words really capture the feel of it.
So let's look at the voices. OTW, the host, he's obviously key. He's running the show.
Describes his recent weeks as fucking fantastic, having so much fun.
And he really positions his content as something different, Above all ranks, all stats, all fear.
But he also talks about the challenge, right? Managing these shows because people take up so much.
Freaking space and airtime, yeah. It's interesting, too, how he mentions building the channel on positive comments, contrasting that with hate.
Then you have Imperious.
Yeah.
Or Cage, as he's often called later.
Right. OTW introduces him with a flourish, doesn't he? World-famous YouTube emperor.
Haven of class and culture.
But then his style?
Yeah.
It turns out to be really aggressive. Very provocative. Especially, it seems, towards the women on the panel.
Absolutely. And you see that with Cynthia. OTW even says it was very surprising she was there.
She gets involved, she argues, but she also says it's tiring, draining.
And she ends up being the target of some really direct verbal attacks in the transcript. Pretty harsh stuff.
Yeah. Then TML Machine Lies he joins in, says he's interested in the drama.
Right. Notes he usually talks about, like religion or tech. So maybe he brings a slightly different angle, watching the dynamics.
Lou Bass pops up later, too, offers some commentaries, sometimes pushing back on things like gender roles.
And then there's Snafu Snaps. He's discussed a lot, even though he wasn't actually on this panel, right?
Exactly. OTW and TML talk about his recent hospitalization, a head injury.
And they speculate, don't they, about how that might be affecting him online, his mindset.
This idea that he might not be fully in control when he's full snaps.
And OTW's metaphor. Ghost of Christmas past, present, future. It's quite evocative.
Plus that really stark visual detail, seeing where his head was caved in when he turns, makes it very real.
Definitely grounds the discussion about his state.
Yeah.
And another person talked about, also absent, is Lindsay.
Oh, yeah. Accused of, playing manipulation games?
Called a vile woman who wants to hurt other women. Seen as very calculating.
Using a soft voice to manipulate her voice and behavior.
And specific things are mentioned, like taking private messages public.
Yeah, second time she's done this, apparently, and giving out a phone number maliciously.
So her past actions are really tied to how she's viewed now by some on that panel. History matters in this space.
Totally. And speaking of history, Orthodox joins late, right? And immediately clashes with Cage.
Yeah, sparks fly there. Aggressive back and forth.
And then right near the end, Jack or Talcott gets mentioned. Seems viewed a bit differently.
Yeah, described as finding a position of neutrality.
Yeah.
Like a moderator.
OTW even mentions adopting a Talcottian perspective.
Yeah.
Suggests that neutral stance is valued, at least by some.
It's interesting, isn't it? Even in all that chaos, different ways of interacting are noticed. Maybe not dominant, but noticed.
Okay, so we've got the players. What about the actual themes? Where should we start?
Well, I think the first big one is just the nature of the conflict itself, online conflict and community, as shown here.
Right. And that idea that so much of it is performance.
Exactly. You hear things like they talk views, we talk impact, they chase clout, we and great names.
Tweet fake beef, play games, we ignite the booth.
Whole scene disrupt,
Yeah.
no edits, no fluff, just full-grown cuts.
Yeah.
It really paints this picture of online interaction, especially the fighting, as a kind of show.
Generating content, maybe? Or influence?
Yeah, and there's a tension there, isn't there? Is it real fighting, or is it just like strategic engagement for clicks? That line seems really blurry.
And it connects to what someone said about the community.
Yeah.
How they pick and choose who they're going to hold accountable.
Yeah, the standards seem flexible.
Yeah.
Depends on who's performing, maybe, or who's considered in at that moment.
Which maybe ties into how some speakers view online relationships.
Oh, definitely. Some really striking comments there. Relationships seen as transactional, temporary.
Like friendships just have seasons, short alliances.
They're an illusion, even rented, not unconditional.
And that blunt idea of needing to eliminate the people that are not actually beneficial. Wow.
It's quite a cynical view, isn't it? But maybe pragmatic for some in that environment. Alliances as tools, not bonds.
Someone even brought up a Machiavellian perspective.
Yeah, friendships are rented. Backstabbing is okay if someone's, not morally sound or not trustworthy, though ideally do it directly.
It's a really stark contrast to, well, traditional ideas of friendship and community.
It really is.
Yeah.
Although it's not all like that in the source. It does mention seeking resolution sometimes.
Like the healed connections between OTW and flow state after some conflict.
Exactly. And there's value put on vulnerability, too.
Mm-hmm.
OTW's art is seen as a strength because it's vulnerable.
So it's complicated, but the source is also full of these specific fights, these past dramas that everyone seems to know.
Oh, yeah, they become like community lore. OTW versus flow state making a mountain out of grain of salt, apparently.
Tar versus Cynthia, Snafu versus Monograph, Snafu versus OTW and Illuminatomy.
And Wrenchgate. That sounds intriguing. Something about OTW giving out mod status, maybe, causing friction with someone called Paul.
And Pierogi Gate, another one. And Moose's interview.
The witness protection style interview with Truth or Cop about Paul.
Yeah.
These things clearly stick.
They become shorthand, don't they? For these complex past events that shape how people see each other now.
Definitely. Now, shifting gears a bit, the source includes some really intense views on gender and power.
Yeah, this is where Imperius, or Cage, made some extremely aggressive claims.
Extremely.
Yeah.
And derogatory towards women, saying they have no strength, no intelligence.
That their value is only tied to men or sex, using really crude terms like child of dick, take dick, walking hole.
Calling them stupid creatures, next of kin to chaos, saying they should be seen and not heard.
Suggesting they could be bought and sold like burger slaves, even claiming they cannot love or kill their children.
It's important we state clearly, for you listening, that these highly offensive views were explicitly present in the source material we analyzed. We're reporting impartially on what was said.
Absolutely. And then you had Lou Bass offering a very different take.
Yeah, a sharp contrast. Arguing women are gatekeepers, they create humanity, create life.
And are much more powerful than the man in the end.
Lou Bass talked about a necessary binary system between men and women and mentioned hypergamy women seeking resources as maybe an evolutionary thing.
The discussion also apparently got very graphic about sex acts.
Yes, quite explicit. And disturbingly included debates around rape, which some speakers questioned and minimized in graphic detail and consent.
Again, just reporting that these topics were present and discussed in a highly provocative way in the source.
Exactly. Okay, another theme area that came up was religion, morality, spirituality. Often also quite provocative.
Right, like finding God in a gutter in the dirt and the pain.
Yeah, showing a distrust of traditional religious places like stained glass or capital gain, or building cathedrals on the backs of doubt.
Accusations against institutions excommunicate questions, bless wars, hide crimes, silence women.
Lamenting a church burned down, but finding truth elsewhere, like a spark in the soul, not in edited texts.
They also talked about biblical revelations, didn't they?
They did. One view was that the end times already happened, back with Jesus' apostles.
Linking the mark of the beast to, like, historical marks from Caesar.
And also to modern tech chips in the head or hand.
Yeah.
Though one speaker did point out that biblically, you're not really supposed to interpret revelations that way.
Interesting. And this connected to ideas about spiritual state.
Yeah, talk of a divine and stark spirit fighting back. And this observation that some people seem to lack a spiritual spark.
Described as dullness or numbness.
Potentially linked to trauma or pain. Like your inner state, maybe your past, affects how you show up.
And that ties into accountability, right? Versus forgiveness for past bad decisions or cruel acts.
Yes. The idea of holding people accountable forever was actually stated.
Contrasting with the view that just letting things slide is gaslighting manipulation.
So they're grappling intensely with how to deal with past behavior within the community.
Okay, let's transition slightly. Tech and AI came up too, in the context of the online world and the future.
Definitely. AI seen as a tool for content creation, music, ads, thumbnails, brainstorming, slides.
And OTW presented as being ahead of the game using AI.
Which reflects a broader trend, right? AI becoming key for online content, blurring human and machine creation.
And there were some futuristic, maybe dystopian visions shared.
Oh yeah, universal translators, smart tech everywhere, mattresses, toilets, fridges.
But also potential enslavement by robots, militarized drones, chipping people.
And like we said, this links straight back to the biblical prophecy talk, the mark of the beast, blending tech anxiety with spiritual interpretations.
There was also that interesting philosophical bit about humans as patterns to interrupt the patterns.
Yeah, redirect the direction of advancements, suggesting individuals have a role in shaping where tech goes.
And the source actually posed a question for you, the listener. Could AI end wars and legal secrets?
And what would the fallout be? Pretty big question to emerge from that panel.
Health also got a brief mention, connecting physical state to well-being.
Yeah, the microbiome, importance of teas and herbs, dandelion, thulian leaf for immunity, cleansing, antioxidants, antibiotics.
Fasting, cleaning organs, contrasting traditional living with modern health problems.
Specific mention of anorectum cancer being on the rise, stressing health checks.
And that anecdote about working in an ER swabbing male urethras.
Big graphic, but connects to the health theme. And the idea of the body keeps the score came up too.
Linking the mind to disease rather than just looking for external fixes. A more holistic view from some.
And of course, looping back to Snafu Snap's head injury, the body literally keeping score and maybe changing his behavior.
So beyond these big themes, there were those specific anecdotes that really paint a picture.
Definitely. Like Lindsay making Chuck's $1,000 private message public. Betrayal is public spectacle.
The mention of Renisha's commune in Oregon, with Rolls Royces, now a ghost town, adds a layer of strange history.
We already mentioned Wrenchgate and Pierogi-gate, those code words for past drama.
And Moose's witness protection style interview about Paul, another specific moment logged in community memory.
Even small details like mentioning Busch Light, R&R whiskey, Cacan beer, grounds it a bit.
And that anecdote about drinking piss on air, mentioned with discomfort by one, maybe celebrated by another.
Highlights the boundary-pushing, shocking nature of some of the content.
And that chaotic argument between Cage and Orthodox near the end really sums up the intense, personal, often confusing nature of the fights.
Yeah, leaves you wondering how anything gets resolved.
Finally, the discussion did touch on some broader ideas, didn't it? About life, duty, control.
Yeah, moving beyond the immediate trauma, like the debate about a man's duty. Is it just family, his society?
Or does it go beyond that, being a productive member of society versus a parasite?
And contrasting views on how things should be run. Local systems versus big government.
The idea that diversity and corruption go together in big systems.
While small similar groups like Spartans are stronger. But the counter was that small towns can be corrupt too, and federal money militarizes local police.
Shows a real distrust of big structures, a search for alternatives.
And amidst all that, the idea of order out of chaos versus just chaos.
Yeah.
An aspiration for meaning, maybe.
Yeah, quite a message given the context.
So looking back at the source you gave us, this deep dive, well, it covered a huge range.
Intense stuff, online drama, performance, really provocative gender debates, tech futures, personal struggles, history, duty. Yeah. What really comes through is the raw, unfiltered nature of it all in the source material. Extreme viewpoints, extreme language.
Definitely boundary pushing. Challenges conventional ways of talking.
And just to reiterate, our goal here was to explore that content from the transcript impartially.
Right. Reporting on what was said, the dynamics, the ideas, without taking sides ourselves.
So it really leaves you, the listener, with that core question from the title, doesn't it?
It does. In that complex, often confrontational online world shown in the source, what does determine who's still standing when the smoke clears?
Is it just pure resilience? Is it how well you perform online?
Strategic alliances, even if they're just rented.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's something else entirely. Vulnerability. That inner spark they talked about.
Something to think about, definitely, as you consider these online spaces.
Mic check, one voice, one spark. From the shadows to the bright, let's light the dark. Red and blue views, truth in the middle. No script, just thought raw and a little civil. Every question's got layers, so we peel back facts. From the real to the surreal, we don't hold back. Voices collide where ideas ignite. You tuned in, now step into the fight. This is more